Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I am in very bright and sunny Escazú, Costa Rica. It is a beautiful day, and it is Saturday, the 15th of February in the year 2025. And I'm doing this on Saturday, a day early. You get me a day early because tomorrow I'll be traveling. So I wanted to make sure I took care of this before I went anywhere. So I hope anyone who was celebrating Valentine's Day had a very lovely day. And Monday is President's Day in the United States, so that's a nice weekend thing, right? So it's a nice long weekend and celebration all weekend, right? Okay, but it is a very strange time. So if you are in your weekend celebrations and it feels odd or weird, it is because we have some strange astrology going on, and I think it's doing stuff that is very complicated for people's lives. So what we've got going on is Saturn, which is now currently at 19 degrees of Pisces, is making what we call a semi-square to Pluto. And a semi-square is a half of a square. So a square is 90 degrees, and a semi-square is 45 degrees. And it's a very uncomfortable aspect. And it's one of those that kind of needles you the way the inconjunct does. So we don't really notice this aspect so much, but it is affecting anything that is early degrees of fixed. So it's Saturn is there at 19 Pisces, and it is affecting Pluto at 2.5 degrees of Aquarius. Saturn and Pluto are traditionally tough cookies when they're together. They're tough on their own, but when they are together doing something, talking to one another, as we saw in 2020, where they spent most of the year together, they spent an exact time together in January of that year, and then was kind of an on and off relationship for the rest of the year without being exact again. And so, but really back then, it extended as far back as 2019, the middle of 2019, late 2019, But right now, they are not an obvious aspect. It's not this obvious conjunction like it was back then. It's like, oh yeah, and this is even now starting to break up and dissipate. But the last few days have been complicated and difficult. And where I live, I've watched a whole bunch of stories happen. One is that one of my friends has decided to leave here. She's been here for 12 years, and she's going to move not far away, but she's got a house out at the beach somewhere in a very beautiful location. But she's now moving out of this property, which is going to be very sad for some of us. And we were talking about it yesterday that we're heartbroken. But this is a decision she made based on some complicated events here the other day. And then I found out yesterday that my favorite vivero, which is a plant nursery, a nursery is a vivero, and I go there regularly. I walk there. I walk a few blocks away, and I go and get stuff for my orchids, and I get different plant remedies and pots and obvious things that you need for gardening. So I went over there yesterday to get some substrate for the orchids, and I found out that they are closing that location, which has been there for decades. And these people that are there now that I like very much have been there 5 years, and the previous renters who had the same nursery, had a nursery there, were there for many, many years. And it's a bit of a shock because now I'm going to have to travel to get the things I need. There's other plant places around, but they're very good. They're very inexpensive. They're very kind and helpful. They give you lots of ideas. They're just lovely, and their plants are healthy. And I can walk there. And it's a lovely walk. It's a beautiful walk. And it's just a shame, but they're going to build towers there. Or she said they don't really know what they're going to build there, but they're taking the property just got sold probably because of, the uptick in gentrification near where I live. And there were a whole bunch of empty lots near there a few years ago, and they've all been taken, and these buildings went up really, really quickly over these last few years. So it's been a lot of construction, not so far from me, and it's starting to look like a city more than a little town or a little suburb of San Jose. So and one friend said to me yesterday, why do we need more towers in Escazú? And we don't need more towers in Escazú. So this is something another thing that's heartbreaking. This is actually really heartbreaking. Like, I'll see my friend and we'll get together, and it's not the same. But I'll see her. This is like, okay, we're just going to take this from your life. And, there is progress, there is evolution, and Saturn and Pluto are energies when they get together, especially in these uncomfortable aspects like we're having right now, they often make something never the same. So if it's growth oriented, okay, good. Well, then we change and we grow and we become more close to who we're supposed to be. And sometimes things like this happen and they change our lives, and we're like, this is heavy. So I was talking with the owners, one of the family members who's an owner of the Vivero, and they have a lot of locations. And she said, well, we're still looking for something in Escazú. So I was very happy to hear that. And I got my friend who's a realtor on it. And I said, hey, they're looking to rent another place. So it's hopeful that they will still be walkable or nearby or something. So I'm going to keep my eyes out too in case I see anything that is available for them. So it's been weird. It's been a weird couple of days. It's been a sad couple of days. It's been complicated with my friends here, and it's just, life churns on. And there was a bright spot in all of this. I won an orchid. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw that I won an orchid. And the interesting thing is that I had gone to an orchid show 2 weeks ago, and I bought this orchid with teeny tiny little orchids on it, little flowers. And that stand had a raffle. So I entered the raffle. It was free if you bought an orchid. And I put my name in the bowl, and I won. I couldn't believe it. I won an orchid. This is the second thing I've won within a year. I won an Alpha Femme notebook from Melanie Ann Layer last year, and it's less than a year since then, and I won something else. So I was really excited. It's the classic national flower of Costa Rica, which made me very happy. It doesn't have any flowers on it yet. It will, I think, take 2 years to flower, but the flower is called, the orchid is called Guaria Morada. And so it's purple. You can look it up online, the national flower of Costa Rica, but they're usually very expensive. And so I am very pleased that this is a new prize in my life. So very lovely. So these are the last few days of Aquarius, because on Tuesday, the sun enters Pisces at 5:07 a.m. Eastern Time. And we are winding down Aquarius season, and there will be less and less Aquarius activity because Mercury is in Pisces. It went in the other day, as I talked about last week. And Venus has moved on, and then at this point, we've really only got Pluto left in Aquarius, which is going to stay there for 20 years. If you've been listening to me, you know that. But now we're really entering the Pisces season, and we've got the sun going into Pisces on Tuesday. We've got Mercury in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, and the North Node in Pisces. So this is now really becoming a very Piscean, fluid, flowing water season. And while Mercury will only be there for a few weeks, and the sun will be there for a month, we've got Saturn and the North Node and Neptune there for quite a while. Eventually, Neptune's going to go into Aries in, these next weeks and months, and we're going to get a whole new dose of what that paradigm is going to feel like. But we are in these last days of Aquarius, and so we're moving into a more intuitive, sensitive, creative, imaginative time. Pisces is also, a bit of a trickster. And it can be that, we are in a place of real inspiration or not real inspiration. It could be reality or it could not be reality. Is it real? Isn't it? It's two sides of the same coin. So this is a time when we need to really stay sharp in our navigation of things, and we need to pay attention and be very clear and not allow ourselves to really be misled in our daily dealings and in our lives and in our relationships. And how we work through this is we just sort of stay alert and manage one step at a time, and use this Pisces energy for being imaginative, for dreaming big for your life, for creating a vision for yourself, for doing healing work, meditation, anything that's going to bring you to a place of peace, to a place of healing, anything that's going to give you that sense, that vibe. So this is very positive, okay? Very positive in that way. But you do need to stay alert, and you do need to pay attention, because that you stay attentive, because you want to know that you are doing the right things and you're following things as they should be, not as you're being dissuaded, manipulated, misled in any way, okay? Things are not as they seem when we go into Pisces, when we have that many planets in Pisces, and that'll be 4 planets and the North Node in Pisces. Eventually, Venus is going to go back there, but that's not for a while. So we're looking at this incredible time of inspiration, but we do need to keep our wits about us during this time. And one foot on the ground and one foot in inspiration and desire and creativity and imagination. So the other thing going on this week is that Mercury and Jupiter are going to square, and Mercury in Pisces and Jupiter in Gemini. And so they are in a mutual reception. And what that means is that Mercury is the ruler of Gemini and Jupiter is in its sign, and they are squaring each other, but they are generally in a mutual reception with each other as the fact that they are in each other's signs. Jupiter used to rule Pisces. Jupiter is the co-ruler of Pisces because it's the ancient ruler of Pisces. So they are talking to one another in an aspect, and they are in mutual reception. They're in mutual reception in this moment, but they're going to be talking to each other in a square on Thursday the 20th at 3:13 p.m. So this is fortune, this is expansion, this is awareness, this is consciousness, this is, opening doors of communication. And so this is a very positive aspect, even though it's a square. But also, just be mindful. Use your words carefully. Choose your words carefully. Don't talk about something that really isn't your business to talk about. This is where, I said too much. I shouldn't have said that. Oops, open mouth, insert foot, especially with Gemini around, that couldn't be really I just said that. Okay, I shouldn't have said that. Oops, too much information. So let's just make sure that we are focused in our dialogue with people. That could also be a little confusing because it's Pisces, there's the Pisces confusion. Also, make sure you're telling the truth. Please stay on the side of the truth. Keep your energy clean. Keep your thoughts clean. Don't wander off in your thoughts that are, particularly distracting or anything. Use this as something to expand your awareness and expand your consciousness, and maybe have some sort of, amazing creative breakthrough, or in your thinking a breakthrough. So this is, Jupiter's good like that. It's about expansion. And it's about good luck. So if you're having a meeting that day, if you have to have a conversation that day, it could be good luck. Even if, it might be a tense meeting, or, you're trying to sell something, or you've got to make a presentation. Those things can be a little tedious, but it's actually good when Mercury and Jupiter are squaring each other. It shouldn't get things out of sorts with anyone, and just be very aware of that. Don't tell people other things about other people. Don't gossip. Don't gossip. Don't say things that, you're taking sides or something, because that could stir the pot too much. Then next Sunday, the 23rd, Mercury in Pisces makes a very nice relationship to Mars in Cancer. And they're going to have a good conversation. And they are both in water signs, giving us a lot of insight, intuition, creativity, imagination. Again, Mercury will speak to Saturn the week after, but that's not this week's podcast. That's next week's podcast. And Saturn and Mercury will get together for some real crisp, clear thinking. So the Mars and Saturn have been talking to each other in a trine in a very nice way. So things are falling into place as they need to be, even though there's all this other weirdness going on, and weirdness, because I really stress the fact when I go back to Saturn and Pluto, they change things. So I'm glad they're kind of moving out of the aspect now, because some things came up, like I said, well, they've got to get out of that vivero, right? And my friend is going to move. These are things that are not going to change back. Decisions have been made. Decisions that are bigger than, well, maybe I'll go, maybe I won't go, decisions that are changing the course of those people's lives and touch everyone else's lives. And this is the nature of Saturn and Pluto. So I'm glad Saturn is going to get some nice relationships, is getting nice relationships to Mars, and is going to get some more nice relationships from Mercury, because it's going to smooth this over, and we're going to see that it's going to be okay after we're past this little bump we're in right now. And then other planets will come in and make nice to Saturn. Like even the moon this week is going to make nice to Saturn on Wednesday, when the moon is in Scorpio, and it makes a trine to Saturn at 10:59 a.m. on Wednesday the 19th. That's Eastern time. And this is something really we want to see, like some things getting smoothed over that have just become bumps in the road. So the future is ours. We choose what to do with it. We have to move on. Isaac Mizrahi once said to me, "Evolution, darling," when I was complaining about John V. Pastry closing. This was a long time ago. This was in the 2000s, 2006 or something, when they were shutting down the bakery that had been there. It was an institution. It was a true French bakery on 6th Avenue between 12th and 13th Street, where my client lives. And she lives on West 12th Street. And we were playing canasta, actually, all of us. and when I was saying, I can't believe they're closing. Oh, my goodness, what a loss. And I mean, they were just moving. They were closing. And he said, "Evolution, darling." And I'm like, yeah, I guess so, huh? What a shame. But, we move on. There are other viveros for me to go to. And there's all of La Garita, which is all viveros. So, it's just far. So when we look at the rest of the week, the big news is, Mars is going direct on Sunday the 23rd. So that same day that Mercury is speaking very nicely to Mars, and Mars will be changing direction. So it's going to station, and it is going to go direct on the 23rd, which is a Sunday, at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So this is a very positive experience. Finally, we're going to be done with this Mars retrograde, which means this is the last week of Mars retrograde, the final week of Mars retrograde. And so what Mars is going to do is it's at 17, right now it's at 17 degrees, 26 minutes, and it's going to stay at 17. It's not going to move this week. It's going to change at 17 degrees 1 minute. So it's not going to flip back to 16 degrees. It's not going further than 17. It's going to pretty much stay there. Just the minutes will change. It'll go back a little further. But that's it. We're done. We're going to be done with this Mars retrograde, which started on December 6th, we're in Leo, it's 6 degrees of Leo, when the woman threw the rompope in the little grandmother's face. And if you don't remember that story, please go back to my podcast of December 8th, and you will hear about that adventure that I had in the Christmas village. But now, we've all hopefully been behaving. We're not losing our temper. Remember, we still have a week left. And, when Mars goes retrograde, and Mars is retrograde, we don't want to start an argument. We don't want to start a war, because you won't win the war. And so, what we're uncovering during this time is anything having to do with our abilities to assert ourselves, our confidence, how we have felt during this time, and where we had to confront things that might be, a lack of confidence in our lives, a place where we might have to drum up the confidence to do something. Maybe we have to take a step back and look at where we're not asserting ourselves where we need to, where we need to not hide and not shine our light. So where have we been doing those things? So this is something that we've all had to go through. It has been exhausting. I think it's been exhausting, and it's not a motivating time. We're not motivated. So we only have one more week left. And then Mars will go direct on Sunday evening. It might be a little wobbly for a day or so, the 24th, the 25th. Just expect that Mars is going to take some time to move forward, and it will be stopped in the sky, And so when it stops in the sky, we still won't have motivation, but maybe by the following Tuesday, the 25th or so, we'll start to feel it a little bit, as Mars will start to edge forward ever so slightly. And when we start to experience this, remember, there's going to be a whole bunch of planets in Pisces, and as we get into this, they will support that Mars. So it's good news. It's good news. We want planets to go direct. We want planets to be forward moving. We want to be motivated. We want to keep our energy flowing. However, that 1 week, okay, and I'm telling you now, a week in advance, I'm not going to spring this on you next Sunday. The week of the 24th through the 28th, it's not even a whole week. The 24th is a Monday. The Friday is a 28th. You have to take some action, do what you need to do, hurry up. The things that you've been holding on to, get them done. Because on Saturday the 1st, Venus goes retrograde. And it's happening already. March 1st is 2 weeks from today, and it is a Venus retrograde beginning. It's at 7:36 p.m., March 1st, Eastern Time. Venus will go retrograde. So, people don't like when they hear this from me, but I have to say it. Even though I said all along Mars retrograde was not a great time to start a brand new relationship, especially a romantic relationship, a partnership, it's not good for that. Venus isn't either. So you've got 1 week in between when Mars is kind of wobbling forward and Venus is stopping in the sky. So they're going to be overlapping in their stations, one stationing direct, one stationing retrograde. And so it's still not a great week. It's not the most optimal week to start a new relationship. But you have to keep going forward and do what you need to do. Just make sure you are clearly focused and aware that it might not be the greatest time for relationships. You may hear from people from the past. Venus is in Aries. Venus will go retrograde at 10 degrees of Aries. Not her favorite sign. Not her favorite sign. She likes to be in Libra, which is the opposite sign of Aries. So this is something we really need to be aware of. It's not just Venus retrograde. It's Venus not in her favorite sign, at least until March 28th, when she will have retrograded back and gone back into Pisces. And we all know what that's going to look like, because she is going to start getting ready to conjunct Saturn and stay with Saturn most of April. Most of April. She'll separate at some point. But these are things I've talked about before. We want to be very aware of these things, because I don't love Venus Saturn for a month. It just makes me feel like we're going to have to like manufacture our own joy because joy isn't going to come naturally. It's going to be either work or real dedication and loyalty, which is a good thing. Or if you're in a relationship and there's stuff you need to work out and work through, that's the time to do it. But it's going to be work. It's going to be work. If you are in something and you're swaying about, what you are capable of doing, if you're going to stay together, if you're not going to stay together, it's going to be work to make it work. Okay? So just be aware of this, that we're going to have this in April. And you know what? You can get through it. You can get through this. We can all get through this. It's not like it's the first time. It won't be the last time that Venus is retrograde, and she's going to conjunct Saturn at some point. But this is pretty stunning that Venus and Saturn are going to be together, and really close the entire month of April. Not just for a couple days, not just a little bit of a touch and go. This is together. And I feel like we all are going to learn some very serious lessons and hopefully come out better when Venus goes direct April 12th to 13th, depending on where you are in the world. And it can really give us some insight to our relationships, how we relate. And we have to pay attention to that because we can learn and grow from it. Saturn ultimately wants us to grow too. Saturn just doesn't want to impede us. All of the planets are there to support us in our growth. If something's not working for us and it is anti-growth and it's bad for us, or it's really not good for our lives long term, Saturn will let us know this. And all the planets do. Even Jupiter will let you know this. Like Jupiter's like, I suddenly had a big realization. Oh my God. It may come more easily and you'll be like, yeah, okay, I get it. As opposed to Saturn going, but why? Why? But Saturn is complicated, It expects us to be, responsible and to claim our responsibility and absolutely come to terms with what we need to be responsible for. And that might be unattractive. That in and of itself, without being in a relationship, without being around other people, just you with you, Venus and Saturn could have you take radical responsibility towards some things in your life in order to grow and get over the hump and move to something greater in your life. That could potentially be a big growth period for each and every one of us if we take it that way and use it that way. If it's coming out in your relationship with other people, then you need to go back with yourself and say, okay, why have I created this, attracted this, brought this in? Why am I magnetizing this? How am I manifesting this? What is this about? Why is this showing up like this? And then take radical responsibility for what our part in this is, conscious or unconscious. And that's the hard part. It's like, I didn't do that. Yeah, you kind of did. Look at where you are responsible in this. Look at how much responsibility is yours and take that radical responsibility and definitely bring yourself to a place where you are free of what's holding you back. Saturn's a very dense and heavy planet. And when we deal with it, and, we're going to talk more about this because it's not that far away, it's one of the bigger aspects of this year. That's a pretty big relationship between two planets happening like that. So just be aware of it. Use your energies wisely. Use your energies wisely during this Piscean time that we're in. We're in right now as we enter into Pisces season on Tuesday the 18th. And if you need me, you can find me on Instagram, The Golden Astrologer. And if you would like a session with me, you can set something up by going to thegoldenastrologer.com and clicking book online, and you can set up a session. And I want to make note of this. So last Sunday, I gave a lecture to the Internations group on astrocartography. Astrocartography is a very fascinating topic, and it's where we take your astrology chart and put it over a geographical map of the Earth so that we can see where the planetary lines fall to let us know what's good for you, what areas are good for you, what places are good to work, to fall in love, to make money, to start a business, what areas don't have any energy at all, all around the world. And so this is the second one we did. We did one in January, and then we did one last week. And so people were so enthralled with it, we set up a second one, and we still had lots of people very interested. And so I do astrocartography as a regular part of my sessions. So if you sign up for a reading with me, you will receive astrocartography. It requires an accurate birth time. Really, it has to be within 15 minutes. And don't worry if it's your mother saying, oh, maybe it was 2:36 instead of 2:37 p.m. Don't worry about that. That's fine. But it's when we get into 15, 20 minutes, that's when it starts to lose its impact. So I highly recommend that if you are interested in an astrocartography session, you can book a session with me and we'll talk about your chart, but also talk about like locational astrology for you. Your chart moves based on where you go. So I moved to Costa Rica, and it's not the same energies that I had in New York. Thank goodness. That's one of the reasons why I'm here. But I knew it was good. That's why I stayed, as opposed to, well, maybe this will work. No, I knew it was good. I felt it was good. You also have to like the place, as I always say. But astrocartography is something that I find is extremely helpful for people, and it does make a difference in their lives. It certainly has made a difference in mine. So you can set that up. You can also buy 3 city reports on my website for like $25. And that's because some people know where they want to look, and they've got 3 cities in mind, and they do need to be far apart. They should be at least 300, 500 miles apart. You don't want to say, oh, I want New York City, or let's see, Hoboken, New Jersey, or, no, that doesn't work. They're the same. It's the same. And even Connecticut would probably be the same. You want them to be several hundred miles away from each other in order to look at cities and expect to get different perspectives and different astrological lines. But it's fun. It's interesting. It gives lots of perspective on lots of travel places to go, and I highly recommend it. I also highly recommend my expansion mentoring. You can get to spend 3 months with me, 6 months with me, or 12 months with me, and you get to really experience some of the tools that I have learned in my coaching certification. And we work through things and bring you to a different place in your life. And I've seen this happen with a few people that have worked with me, and it's very exciting. So contact me if you are interested. info@thegoldenastrologer.com, deb@debmcbride.com, and it's also under book online on my website, thegoldenastrologer.com. Have a beautiful week ahead. When I see you again on this podcast, it will be the verge of Mars going direct, because it's later than I do my podcast that evening, but we can celebrate. We can have podcast celebration. But thank you so much for listening. Gratitude to each and every one of you.